Breaking news to begin NFL Live, where the Commanders have added a key veteran. Adam Schefter with us here. Adam, what's the latest?
Laura, Stephon Diggs is going back home, sort of, where he went to college at Maryland. He's now going to be playing for the Washington Commanders. He's set to sign a one-year deal worth up to $12 million. He had been talking to the Commanders. That was the place that made the most sense all along. The Chiefs weighed in. The Dolphins weighed in, the Raiders weighed in, but the fact of the matter is the Commanders were a team that had a need, had an opening, and they've been able to get together with Stephon Diggs to carve out a one-year deal that will bring him to Washington to complement Terry McLaurin and make him the newest target for Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, I love this fit, especially for the quarterback. We'll dive into that. But the addition of Diggs provides Jayden Daniels with a reliable target. Diggs caught nearly 83% of the passes thrown his way last season, which led all wide receivers. The only players that averaged more yards per route than Diggs were Jackson Smith and Jigba and Puka Nacua. That's the type of company he's in. He would tell you, as he said recently, he's the best number 2 wideout you can find somewhere. He could figure in to be a major factor in this offense as we welcome you into the show. We got Hawk and Booger here, as well as Adam for the rest of the hour. And Hawk, I'll start with you. What kind of impact do you think Diggs could have on this Commanders offense?
Tremendous impact. It immediately elevates the passing game in Washington. It right-sizes the entire receiving core where guys like Luke McCaffrey, Antonio Williams, Treylon Burks don't need to be relied upon as heavily with Diggs in the rotation. And then on top of that, I mean, Diggs brings versatility. You looked at those stats from a year ago. The reality is, yes, he's an older receiver, but he was coming off of an ACL tear. So I don't think people realize how probably understated how good Stephon Diggs was a year ago in New England. He still plays at a very high level. And the delta between him and Terry McLaurin as far as skill goes right now in their careers is razor thin, if at all. So it immediately gives them a reliable number 2 that could play at the level as their number 1 receiver.
Yeah, Hawk, and if he continues to improve from the ACL, you could argue he may wind up being a 1B to Terry McLaurin. And if you look at Jayden Daniels, he's got to be better this year. And how do you help your quarterback? You got to get him some more weapons. I truly think Terry McLaurin will be able to control the deep end of the field, and I think Stephon Diggs is going to be able to control that intermediate area right in front of the quarterback. And I think if you're looking at this team, the Commanders, and you're saying, hey, what does this team need to do? They need playmakers on the offensive side of the football, and I think this is a welcome addition. Jayden Daniels has got to be happy about that right now.
Well, Boog, you mentioned playmakers on the offensive side of the football, and one of the playmakers that was under consideration was Brandon Ayuk, who's currently under contract to the 49ers on the reserve list right now. He has yet to apply for reinstatement. And there were so many social media posts from him that those posts managed to dwindle the chances that he would wind up in Washington. And at one point when he was critical of Jayden Daniels and Jayden Daniels responded back, that then shifted the focus to Stephon Diggs and enabled him to get more involved in the picture to where eventually Diggs now gets done the deal that easily could have gone to Brandon Ayuk. And Brandon Ayuk certainly felt like or seemed like it was going his way for a while. But in the end, it's Diggs back in that area, and he now gets a chance to help elevate the Commanders' offense.
Yeah, the connection with Jayden Daniels and Brandon Ayuk goes back to college, right? But as Adam's telling you, that's not going to happen right now. Diggs, by the way, 1,000 receiving yards in 7 of the 8 last seasons. One of 2 players to do that, along with Mike Evans. This guy has been, as we're telling you, incredibly reliable. Lots more news going on right now. Let's get everyone caught up with some top stories. Adam, what's the latest with Rashee Rice?
Back at practice today, Laura, in 11 drills, which he hadn't done through the early part of training camp as he recovers from that knee injury that was going on during the offseason. He underwent arthroscopic surgery on that right knee, but the fact that he was back today doing 11-on-11 work is a good sign, and he is expected to be ready for the Monday night opener against the Denver Broncos. Meanwhile, Tank Dell, the Texans wide receiver, practice in full pads today for the first time since December of 2024. Had been coming back from a devastating knee injury. He has been making progress, and the fact that he's back in pads also is a big boost for the Texans offense and good news for C.J. Stroud. Meanwhile, the Chargers left tackle Rashawn Slater left practice yesterday with what appeared to be some type of leg injury. However, he was back on the field today, so it is not serious. Everybody haunted by what went on with the Chargers offensive line and all the injuries that it experienced last year, but that's not the case. Slater now is back and looks like he's going to be okay. It was just precautionary. Meanwhile, Jalen Walker, the Falcons' edge outside linebacker pass rusher, lost for the season due to a torn ACL. The Falcons confirmed that he will not play at all again this season, which is a devastating blow to that defense to lose one of their best pass rushers and one of their best players. He now is out for the year and will need surgery. And Lane Johnson, the Eagles' outstanding tackle, missed his 4th straight practice today due to a non-injury personal reason. The Eagles have not specified exactly what's going on, but everybody knows how important Lane Johnson is to Philadelphia, and hopefully from his standpoint, the team standpoint, everything is okay, and he will be back soon. And also, Makai Lemon, who has been battling a hamstring issue during the offseason, has missed some practice time recently with a similar hamstring issue. That has to be a little bit worrisome to the Philadelphia Eagles right now.
Yeah, Devontae Smith sitting out as well. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. One Eagle that was practicing at camp today, thanks to Adam, was quarterback Jalen Hurts, as he and new OC Sean Mannion continue to build their relationship. No A.J. Brown either. You got to make sure there's some receivers out here. We got to keep an eye on their health. But this offense is going to look different in many ways, right? Hurts was asked about what excites him about the new offense after practice today. Here's what he said.
You know, as you grow, as you evolve, everything kind of changes, and you got to roll with those changes. So it's been good. I like where we are. You know, I call it the time of calibrating. You know, you're kind of figuring it out, putting it together, you know, and I've kind of always played the position in a calculated way. And so I think the more I learn and the more I ingrain myself into what we're doing now, I think the better off we'll be and the better off we'll flow when the season comes. But, you know, there's always that onboarding period with a new coach and a new system, especially something that's new and as fresh as this.
One thing about Jalen Hurts that I'm a big fan about, one, he's a competitor and he's going to adapt to anything he needs to do. And he's going to do whatever it takes to win football games. He's coming in, he's buying in just like every single body else. And it's important when your quarterback's buying in because that's the leader of your team and we're all following him. He's buying into the system. He's doing a really good job of being coachable and he's making plays out here.
High praise from Saquon Barkley, right? As Jeremy Fowler joins us now. He was at Eagles practice today. And Jeremy, one of the offensive changes that's been reported is the desire for Hurts to play more under center. What's Hurts thinking about that transition this year?
Well, Laura, Hurts feels like he's made great strides in this new offense, particularly with his footwork. He's been honing in on the details there. He says it's all about synchronizing. When his feet are synced up with his eyes, when he's taking it from under center and dropping back, he can play freely and drive the ball. I spoke to OC Sean Mannion coming off the field. He said that footwork is one of the very first things that Hurts really dug in on and developed quickly as part of the new offense. That helped him look more at the big picture and figure out every down where the ball's supposed to go. Today, the ball went to Dontavian Wicks, who's a new receiver that the Eagles are really excited about. Hurts seems to have a good connection with him. They connected down the sideline on a deep pass today. And, you know, with Devontae Smith being out, Makai Lemon out, both short-term hamstring issues, they'll be back. But for now, Wicks is really developing nicely. People around the Eagles are really excited about that player.
Yeah, good reps for Wicks, no doubt. And interesting, you heard Jalen saying, like, he's got to work through the installation of a new offense, things like that. All I can think is, Jeremy, he's very familiar with doing that, right? He's done it quite a few times, as we've told you before. Thanks to Jeremy for the latest from Eagles camp. And after ranking top 10 in the NFL in QBR in 2024, Jalen Hurts dropped to 20th in that category last season. It was a big drop-off, right? He completed fewer than 65% of his passes, his lowest rate in a season since 2021, which was his first year as the starter. Hurts ran the ball at a significantly lower rate as well, finishing with a career low in rushing yards. We know that's been a key part of his game when things have been working well. And Puck, what are you hoping to see from Hurts and this Eagles offense to show that they're in a better place than where they finished last year?
I'm looking for the most efficient Eagles offense that we've seen in some years, because even though Sean Mannion is a first-year play call, this offense, I do think is something that could help elevate Jalen. And I hate the fact that he's had to go through these resets every single season over the last few years. But I think with this offense specifically, because you'll have more under center opportunities, it should get Saquon Barkley in that outside zone, more explosive runs. You'll see that run game do a lot better than it did a year ago. And it won't be like how they called plays last season, which was line up and just win. Here's the play. go win. There didn't feel like a large strategy to it. And when this Shanahan, McVay system that Mannion runs, he's been in it as a player, and he has a deep understanding in all the variations of it. I think Jalen is going to benefit greatly. I think Mekhi Lemon, his ability to become a threat early on is going to be huge for this passing game, and Devontae Smith. But I do expect it to be the better version of the Eagles offense. And all that little detail he's talking about, I think is going to pay big dividends as the season progresses, because it is truly an offense that makes bad quarterbacks look decent, decent quarterbacks good, good quarterbacks great, and great quarterbacks look like MVP candidates. And I'm hoping that it's in that latter part of that spectrum.
Well, I think that's what every Eagles fan is hoping also, because if we really want to be honest, Jalen Hurts wasn't very good last year, and we can blame it on the changing coordinators. We can blame it on a lot of different things. He's got to be better. Now, Sean Mannion comes in, and also he's going to institute that under center play action game, which Jalen Hurts talked about. The footwork is going to be paramount. We've all mentioned that. Something we haven't mentioned, Jeff Stoutland, no longer there. This team, when they're at their best, they're a running football team. Whether that's the quarterback running it, whether that's Saquon Barkley running, the offensive line is controlling the line of scrimmage. Jeff Stoutland, Hall of Fame type assistant coach, no longer there. So how are they going to cope with that? Can they still run the football? Can they control the line of scrimmage? Everybody's going to talk about Jalen Hurts, and rightfully so, because of the year he had last year. But their ability to run the football game is going to be just as paramount as it is with Jalen Hurts. And so those are two things, the quarterback and the run game, that are ultimately, Laura, going to determine whether or not this team succeeds and plays at a high level this season.
Yeah, right, guys. I mean, when you think about when this Eagles offense has been functioning well, no matter who the coordinator is, no matter what's going on, the O-line's been great. And we just told you, Adam was telling you, Lane Johnson's been out with a personal matter, so we'll keep an eye on that for sure. I wanted to show you guys this from the Eagles. Check out Saquon with his 3-year-old son, Saquon Jr. He's on the field at practice this week, getting him ready to go, right? I mean, this guy already looks better than most people, just normal people, but that's because he's not. And then how about this? We're going to see something pretty cool at the end. Seeing double makes sense. Little hurdle action here. Oh, my goodness. And that was just so normal, Hawk. Saquon, barely even saw him and still able to just completely clear him. I don't understand how this is even possible, but what do you think?
I like his son a lot better at running back than I do linebacker, because that was terrible form tackling. But luckily for him, I'm taking in my class of 2044 NIL clients, and I'm willing to sign them.
Okay,
Laura,
we're going to get that done. Wow. We just signed, sealed, delivered right here on the show. We can do that. Okay, we're just getting started on NFL Live. A lot more coming your way. Aaron Rodgers says this will be his last rodeo in the NFL. Hear why Hawk believes the future Hall of Famer returned to the perfect situation. You don't want to miss this. Plus, we've got a lot of inside info on the Steelers. The QB competition in Cleveland's heating up. A lot of fun planned for you guys. All right, let's talk about the Steelers. They made significant additions to their offense as they look to become a more explosive unit. They needed it, right? Last season, Aaron Rodgers had the shortest average pass distance in the NFL, fewer than 6 yards downfield. 33% of his passes were thrown at or behind the line of scrimmage. That was the highest in the NFL. And there wasn't much opportunity for big plays because the 42-year-old Rodgers got the ball out faster than any other quarterback. So our Steelers reporter, Brooke Pryor, gracing us with her presence. She's been with the team all offseason, joining us now. And Brooke, how has Aaron Rodgers looked now 1 week into training camp, which he says will be his final training camp?
Laura, he's been letting it fly. Let me tell you, the pass in my mind that sticks out is the 24-yard completion he had to Pat Freiermuth during their 2-minute drill to end practice the other day. He also capped that drive off with a touchdown throw to Roman Wilson. He has been so intentional about getting the ball to Wilson, and this is a guy who was a healthy scratch down the stretch last season. Young guy, they needed to build his confidence up. He's changed numbers. He wears number 14 now, his number at Michigan, and you can tell that Aaron Rodgers has really taken on that role, the same role that he had last year of being the veteran leader in this locker room and helping some of those young pass catchers along, and then further developing communication with some of those older guys like DK Metcalf. You can tell that Aaron Rodgers is in his element in camp, and I think that those numbers are going to be a bit better than they were a year ago. I'm not talking that we're going to see in his prime Rodgers, but I think they're going to take a step forward in Mike McCarthy's offense.
Well, you like to hear that, right, if you're a Steelers fan. And, Hawk, I think there's some people that are like, why would he come back again? Okay, what are your expectations for the offense this season? Rodgers and head coach Mike McCarthy, they're reuniting. There's a lot of familiarity there and a lot of past success.
It feels right, Laura. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to have a great season because of the familiarity with Mike McCarthy. But, when you're older in your career, and obviously Aaron Rodgers has played a lot of football, you get back to this sense of comfort, yes, in that offense, but also coming into, back to this Pittsburgh organization. I think what they've done with the receiving core is one of the underrated revamps in the NFL, because you have DK Metcalf, you have Michael Pittman Jr., Jeremy Bernard in the slot, and to Brooks' point, Roman Wilson is having an incredible camp, and that's significant, where on the surface it feels like Bernard and Roman Wilson are battling. I think that 4-receiver stable is going to be the catalyst for this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, because you have a little bit of everything. Roman Wilson can get down the field, and Aaron Rodgers needs that. Anytime you see A-Rod upset during the game, 9 times out of 10, it's because the receiver isn't where they need to be, and they haven't had that level of veteran presence that they have in that receiver room now with Pittman and DK Metcalf. And I'm just excited about it. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year, and I think this receiving core is going to make people rethink what they thought about it coming into the season.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's all about the trust with Rodgers and these receivers. Now, Brooke, you have spent very long time, many years, covering the Steelers, and you had a lot of camps with Mike Tomlin. So now you got a different Mike. You got McCarthy there. What has been different in previous seasons, compared to what you're seeing right now with McCarthy taking over with this training camp?
Yeah, Laura, I think Mike McCarthy actually hit the nail on the head with his theme of camp, which is tempered. That's the word that stretches across the shirts that he passed out on the first day of camp. And he meant it as in the strengthening process with steel. They want to make this team strong. I think of it more as in these practices are more scaled back. I have never seen a more relaxed training camp in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, or any training camp where the guys are wearing black and gold. And that's because Mike McCarthy is really all about getting the guys to the season. He doesn't want to have live tackling. There have been no backs on backers. The quote that sticks out to me is I asked Spencer Anderson about it, and he said, yeah, I'm used to with Mike Tomlin, I am dead tired at the end of practice. I have nothing left in the tank. With Mike McCarthy, I have 10% left, but don't tell him that. So sorry, Spencer, cat's out of the bag. You're holding a little back.
He's watching. He's screwed. Now, it's really interesting, though. I mean, Boog, when you think about it, what would you have preferred as a player? What style would have been better for you? I guess specifically to get you ready for the season.
Well, of course, as a player, you want a camp cupcake where you can come in there and feel good and not get hardened and not get enough work in. But there's a reason guys go to training camp. Over the last 50 or 60 years, there's a reason coaches have kind of hardened their players. You got to be physical in order to play a physical game. So my only concern with Mike McCarthy is this. I get it. When you got players like Aaron Rodgers and Cam Hayward and T.J. Watt, you got to take care of your veteran players. But there's some young guys that need some physical tackling. There's some offensive linemen. The only way you can play football is you actually have to play football. You can't walk through football. So I would have loved Camp Cupcake, but I know in the back of my mind and inside my soul that the only way to be physical and get ready for the season, at some point, you got to hit somebody in the mouth. And that would be my only concern if I'm Mike McCarthy. Is my team going to be ready week 1 to be able to control the line of scrimmage and be physical?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Boog, we know you're a tough cookie for sure, but we know that Mike McCarthy in his time away from the game did a ton of research, talked to so many people that he respected, and formulating a plan, going back to maybe some things he'd done in the past that worked and changing up some things as well. So interested to see how camp continues. We know that you'll be out there. We appreciate you joining our show here, Brooke. Coming up, still ahead, we're going to get back to the big breaking news of the day. Stephon has some new digs. See what I did there down in Washington. How did the Commanders land one of the ongoing between Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders? You see him out there on the field. And that's where reports that head coach Todd Monken said both quarterbacks would get a chance to start in preseason games. So that happened, but then Monken clarified those comments earlier today. Here's what the head coach said.
Basically, we talked about that the quarterbacks are gonna play in the preseason. And obviously, if it's still a competition at that time, why wouldn't you start one and start the other? And then we would go from there. That was really what the conversation was. He wasn't wrong in what we talked about, which you've all known that they're going to play in the preseason, and someone has to go out there for the first snap. Thus, they would be the one that starts. But at this point, we're so far from that it's not really as important as what it kind of got made out to be.
Monken's like, all right, calm down, you guys. I didn't say all that. Ben Solak is on the scene in Cleveland. Was out there at practice today. And Ben, what was your biggest takeaway when watching these Browns quarterbacks?
Yeah, best day we've had for Deshaun Watson in camp so far this year, for sure. And he needed one, right? It was expressed to me that they internally felt like the gap was starting to narrow a little bit between Deshaun Watson and second-year player Shedeur Sanders. But Watson was crisp. He was accurate. He was delivering the ball quickly. You saw Harold Fannin over the middle, Casey Concepcion, the rookie receiver, Denzel Boston looks unbelievable right now at camp. Everybody was getting activated. And Watson was also pulling the football quite a bit, moving around in the quarterback running game, something that Monken wants to wrinkle in because of his time there in Baltimore with Lamar Jackson and playing that 11-on-11 style. So it was a great day for Watson with the ones, but as Monken has really reiterated, tomorrow will be Shedeur with the ones, and then the next day will be Watson, and then the next day will be Shedeur. They're going to split this thing right down the middle. It's going to be training camp practices and preseason games. They want to give everybody an even shot to win this job here with the first team reps, and they don't mind taking that multiple weeks here through August and into the regular season there, week one. Monken telling me, listen, if one guy has a rough practice because our new offensive line is struggling with procedural penalties or our two rookie receivers are struggling with their assignments, it doesn't really matter. The next guy gets ones the next day, and he's going to have to wait his turn. They're splitting this thing straight down the middle.
Hey, yeah, it was interesting, Ben. I don't know if I'm reading into this too much, but he did say we would have both start in the preseason unless the quarterback competition is over. Like, maybe somebody will have won it by then. It does feel like they're a far way away from that. We appreciate you, Ben.
Yeah. They would love, I think they would love if somebody did win it, but I don't think they're going to have that happen here over the next couple weeks.
Okay, so I trust you. We'll see what happens. Thanks so much to Ben Solak for joining us here. Now, Hawk, let's dial into this part of it, right? Which quarterback actually gives the offense the best chance to succeed this season?
I think it's Shedeur Sanders. I mean, you can learn a lot about the quarterbacks through training camp, but how it should be is Deshaun Watson has been in the NFL a very long time. He kind of is who he is at this point, so you should be able to see him in practice and get a really good shot. For Shedeur, he's more on a trajectory, and you have to kind of look out and say, okay, where will he be at this point in the season, and where has he come from since last year? I think that they have to put Shedeur out there to see what they have in this quarterback. And then if it doesn't go according to plan, you could always come back to Deshaun Watson. But to me, Shedeur Sanders seems like the surefire pick, and he should be the starting quarterback to start this season until further notice.
Yeah, see, Hawk, I would go the other way. I would put Deshaun Watson out there, and if and when he fails, then you go to Shedeur, and then if you have to, you can go to Dylan Gabriel. It really doesn't matter at this point because your quarterbacks have to perform. And I think the Cleveland Browns realize they're going to be in the market for a quarterback in 2027. I think the fact that we're at this point right now, having gone through all spring, and now we're in the training camp, and we're talking about divvying up reps and one guy starting one game, the Browns don't have a quarterback that they feel confident in. But Todd Monken is right. Somebody's got to go out there and take snap one. And if you're a young football team and you've traded away Myles Garrett, maybe you go with Shedeur Sanders and say, we're going to go with a youth movement. Either way, I would probably, if it were me, I would start Watson and see what he has. And if and when that doesn't work, then you go all youth. You tell Watson, hey, you can go relax and sit in the cold tub. I'm going with Shedeur Sanders. And if that doesn't work, I'll go with Dylan Gabriel. And if that doesn't work, I'll call Dan Orlovsky and see if he can still throw the football.
That would not...
We're going to draft our guy in 2027 anyway.
Boog, that would not be a youth
first
movement.
overall, Booger.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, listen, I mean, that is kind of the conundrum here for these Browns. They got to see what they have, but they're trying to succeed and win games. I don't know. It could be really interesting and ugly as well. Also funny that you guys are completely split on who should be quarterback or who should, get the start here. That shows why they're having this competition. This one is fascinating. Let's read and react to some more training camp action happening as we turn our attention to the Patriots. Here's quarterback Drake May earlier today on being more vocal this season.
I think you just try to get more comfortable. I think you get more comfortable naturally as it goes on, and I appreciate my chances to be in there and kind of not take it for granted of my responsibility for this team and kind of the power and kind of the natural, really I think kind of respect you get for playing my position. And I think just trying to use that to the best of its ability and try to elevate the guys around me. And I think it's something that's good to go back and forth. I think pushing each other. They pushed me to be more engaging and be more vocal, and I think I'm pushing them to practice better and little things like that, and just try to be the best back and forth kind of communication we can have.
Boog, what do you expect to see from May in year 3?
I think it's going to be another MVP type season. You bring in A.J. Brown to go along with what he has right now, Romeo Doubs. I think from an offensive standpoint, he's got more weapons. I think he's going to be a year older. I think Mike Vrabel is the best situational coach in football. He's going to put this team in a position to win a lot of football games. They can run the football. The offensive line is pretty good. I think Drake May's star is going to continue ascending, and I can't wait to watch it, Laura.
Let's go to Atlanta next, where the team confirmed today that second-year edge Jalen Walker did, in fact, tear his ACL yesterday. He'll be out for the whole season. Just terrible news for the Falcons. Adam, just how big of a question mark now is this Falcons defensive unit?
Well, it's a big problem losing one of your best young defensive players who had 5.5 sacks last year and was poised to have an even bigger year this year. Then you take into consideration that James Pierce also is obviously under investigation by the NFL for a domestic violence incident in the offseason, and he could face discipline. That means they would be without Jalen Walker. They would be without James Pierce, and they're going to have to find a way to manufacture some lost pass rush that this team thought it would have when last season ended.
Let's turn our attention to Zay Flowers. He had a big payday earlier this week with the Ravens. 4 years and $140 million with this extension. He spoke today for the first time since the new deal.
Said he was going to take care of me, and I never doubted that. Said I've been his guy since I came in. That's 100% true, because every time I talk to him, he always have a smile on his face. We always have good conversations. And I feel he the GOAT, man. Everybody was happy for me. Everybody was excited because, you know, the motto here in Baltimore was receivers are not really valued, and that changed yesterday.
Ooh, I like that last part. He was like, let me remind you of this. Hawk, what's your reaction to the new Flowers deal?
Yeah, well deserved, man. I think he was a snub on the ESPN top 10 receiver list. He's gotten better every year he's gotten there. He can play every single position. I'm down here in South Florida in the offseason. You can show up to any field and you might run into Zay Flowers and Gold Feet training because this guy tirelessly works. And I think his best football is in front of him, Laura.
Yeah, you're right, though, too. He keeps the grill in while he's working. I like to see that. Let's get back to the breaking news from the top of the show. Adam Schefter, what's the latest going down in Washington?
Well, they are signing Stephon Diggs to a one-year deal worth up to $12 million. There have been talks going on between Diggs and the Commanders in recent weeks, and I think those intensified here over the course of the last week or so. There were other teams that reached out to Stephon Diggs just to gauge where his head and interest might be at. He spoke at one point to the Chiefs. He spoke at one point to the Raiders and Dolphins. But ultimately, the Commanders were the team that made the most sense. They were looking for another wide receiver. A lot of people thought Brandon Ayuk would wind up there until he went on a social media diatribe and essentially criticized Jaden Daniels, who fired back. That led to the disintegration of hopes that at that point in time, Ayuk could wind up there. And in turn, Diggs stepped into that void, stepped up talks with the Commanders, and got done a deal today. 1 year, up to $12 million. He now will complement Terry McLaurin, help out Jaden Daniels, and be the latest weapon added to the Commanders' offense.
By the way, this is just a really fun show for an NFL fan. We got all the news right here with Adam, everyone commenting on it. We're hearing from quarterbacks. We're hearing from people who've just signed new deals. And there's a lot more to come still on the show. The Texans got even scarier when they added Jadeveon Clowney to an already loaded defense. Is Houston now the team to beat in the AFC? One of our analysts says yes. Find out who next. What does that mean for the offensive side? We'll be right back, right here on
First pick, the Houston Texans select Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm ready to get to work, man. We're in the NFL to play some football.
And he's sacked by Jadeveon Clowney.
Is there any doubt who you should have taken at number one?
Jadeveon Clowney.
Back to Houston, the team that made him the #1 overall pick in 2014.
Return of the king, return of the king. Was gone for a while, now I'm back to claim my throne.
My whole thing was to chase the Super Bowl this year. No better place for me to do it here. I still got a lot to give. I can make plays. We all know that.
Just in case you didn't clock it, that's Jadeveon Clowney saying that he's expecting to win a Super Bowl with these Texans. Look, now you add Clowney into the mix. They had 8.5 sacks. He had 8.5 sacks, for Dallas last year. What makes this group so challenging to game plan for? They were already incredible.
Well, I think on the surface, you can look how talented they are, but it's one thing to have talent. It's another thing to get talent to play with maximum effort and to play with intensity. I think that's the thing that's very underrated in the National Football League. We look at the talent, we look at all these different players and how much money they're making, but can you get that supreme talent to play with maximum effort and relentlessness? And DeMeco Ryans does that as good as any coach in football. They fly to the football. It almost reminds me, Laura, back when I was in Tampa, They used to accuse us, other coaches, of speeding up our film when we sent it out because we played so fast. That's the level that the expectation was in the building and in the room, and I think they have that same level in Houston.
Yeah, it was funny when this came out. Our friend Mina Kimes tweeted out, "Man, they really needed more help, didn't they?" Obviously, tongue firmly planted in cheek. Adam, you reported earlier in the show that Tank Dell was in pads for the first time since his injury. It's been a long time since we've seen him on the field, but if you think about what he was to this Texans offense and C.J. Stroud specifically, that could make you excited if you're a Texans fan. What can you tell us about where he is in his recovery process?
Well, he's moving along so much so that they feel comfortable enough to put him out on the practice field, and it looks like he should be ready for the start of the season. When he played back in 2024, before he suffered a devastating knee injury, he was a big-time weapon and a major playmaker. And the fact that he's back now is uplifting in every which way for this particular team. Moving along well, the fact that he's back in pads for the first time since December of 2024 tells you that he should be ready for the start of the season. And if so, that's just one more weapon for C.J. Stroud to go along with Nico Collins and the rest of those young wide receivers.
Yeah, Hawk, I'm not trying to sit here and make excuses for Stroud, right? The way that the season ended for them was not good, and Stroud knows that, but he was doing it without a lot of help. Nico Collins wasn't even in those games, in that game, especially toward the end against the Patriots that ultimately ended their season. So what would a healthy Dell do for this offense?
So much. And that's why a big part of why C.J. Stroud was so great early on, because of him, Nico Collins, and the clear pictures that Tank Dell provided through separation. There's two ways to separate. Either you're great at changing direction or there's speed. Here's his speed, him just inside releasing and beating the DB. And you see how much separation it causes just by being fast. Then there's the ability to stop and change direction, which Tank Dell does at such a high level. Look at the separation here. This is a super clear picture for C.J. Stroud. These are easy throws. Lastly, you'll see a combination of both. You'll see both change of direction and that top end speed. So when you add this element back into this offense, you couple that with him being year 2 with Nick Haley, David Montgomery in the passing game, a revamped offensive line, it should point to this offense taking a big step if Tank Dell can get back to the level that we saw him last in 2024.
Yeah, Dell averaged 14 yards per reception in the last 2 seasons prior to the injury. That ranked top 20 in the NFL. We got more coming your way here on NFL Live. Nick Emmanwori not out at the practice field at Seahawks camp. So will Seattle's